Alright, welcome back to a third part of Void's Blitzarre Adventure. I'm Kiederen, and we'll be going into Chapter 7 tonight, and possibly Chapter 8, depending on how long this takes. If you were following from last time, I actually lost Jay and failed to recruit Kristen on the previous week, so I actually went back and replayed those chapters and kept Jay alive and actually got Kristen. Knowing she was going to pop up made it a lot easier as I was able to book Void over there to actually talk to her. Just like Bob, she had no recruitment conversation, which I wasn't really expecting, or I was expecting that to happen. So Bob actually picked up a hero crest from the previous chapter, in the one chest right near the start that I kind of had to go back for. Tam is of the appropriate level, but I'm going to hold off on it for now, mostly because in GBA games I have a tendency to kind of promote a little bit later, but if I decide that I like a roadblock at something, difficulty jump because of scaling, I'm certainly open to promoting early. The game actually handed Void her promotion item from the very first chapter, and I just kind of stuck it in the convoy. But I did do a little testing on my own and found she could use it even from chapter 1 if you really needed or wanted it. So I'll kind of hold that in reserve for that kind of purpose. Now that Void is level 10, she did learn Rightful King, which adds 10% to her Aether. These two are not proccing activating skills, so that's the only one it affects, which is nice. It brings up the activation from 7% to 17, so hopefully we'll see that, because I don't think I've actually had that activate yet. Though I've been somewhat conservative with using her, mostly because of this 0 luck that just makes her a lot more of a player phase character. On enemy phase, you don't want her receiving too many attacks because that 0% luck means she's extremely vulnerable to stray critical hits, and the fewer of those that I can expose her to, the safer she'll be. And that's less resetting on my part. I'm gonna take a quick moment to just kind of relook at my team now that I've gotten a few more characters, and just kind of see where I am now that I've given some levels to a bunch of characters as well. Just kind of go down from the top. Tim's been growing pretty nicely. I haven't been tracking too closely up until now, but 9 strength, 11 speed, 8 defense. Those are the most important immediate stats, especially in the early game. That's pretty solid, so I'm very happy with that growth, and he's still level 8, so plenty to go. 7 skills, decent, and 7 res is actually somewhat monstrous considering everyone else has actually, it's not too bad. Or not too much more than everyone, but res overall is pretty low, so 7 is decent, especially since he's supposed to have a really low growth in that. Moving on, Tam was the slower growing character. You see all that red in those stats. He's doesn't have very high growths, but he has higher bases, and as expected, he's been performing pretty well off those high bases, and been getting some decent growth on his own. He's actually not... He's keeping up, I would say, with Tim, actually, despite those lower growths. He might fall off later because of them, but we're still kind of early enough that he's definitely more than pulling his weight. At level 10, he actually learned a new skill, Desperation, from Fire Emblem Heroes, the mobile game. If his HP is below 50%, any double attack he natively is able to do will come out like a brave attack. So if he's below 16 health and he attacks and is fast enough to double, both of those attacks will hit before the enemy can even counterattack, assuming it's an enemy that can counterattack. Combining that with his fiery blood, which would be active at that point, and the axe weapons in general having high might, that's a pretty powerful combination. It's got decent speed for level 10, especially compared to everyone else. He actually has almost comparable stats to my Jagan now in terms of strength, skill, speed, to which end Leroy here's only real purpose at the moment, aside from kind of nuking things with a Horse Slayer or Silver Lance, is to be on a horse and have that 8 movement if I need to cross a lot of territory. I think if I get another horse, definitely I'm willing to start considering letting him go. He's not nearly as essential anymore. I think he's gotten... I don't remember if he started at level 1 or level 2, but he's only had 2 level ups at most, and as expected from these kinds of growths, he hasn't really done much. So if he dies moving forward, I have a feeling I'll probably just roll with it. He's no longer really in the range where he's worth resetting for. Next we have Anna with a whole menagerie of swords here that I've picked up with the sword level to use them. She hasn't changed too much. I think when I reset and replayed the last few chapters, she actually didn't get as much defense as she had before. I'd have to go back and relook at those replays, but I think in the last time when I finished chapter 6, she was sitting at 7 or 8 defense and similar res, so this time around she didn't really get those points, and hopefully I don't miss them too badly, but at least her speed and luck are good enough to give her a respectable avoid. 64 is pretty high, and hopefully I don't need those defensive stats. 7 strength's not great. That's why I kind of have loaded her up with some specialty weapons to kind of mitigate that low strength and get crits for extra raw damage. Use the Lance Reaver's bonuses, the double triangle effect in reverse to kind of pile on damage where she's lacking in strength, and of course the Armor Slayer doing effective damage against knights. Not always an ideal matchup for her since she's going to be at weapon triangle disadvantage, but in a pinch she can pull out that damage. In Sacred Stones, which this game is based off of, effective damage is 3 times the might of the weapon. So she would be striking knights with 24 might plus her strength, which at this stage of the game is still going to be pretty high damage even through their high defense. I bet he hasn't done much. He's capped his skill, but at the moment he doesn't have any use for it. Staff, I've actually not been healing that much with him because Rally Spectrum is just so good. A lot of times I've found I'm preferring to just use that rally and then have anyone who needs healing just use a vulnerary instead. So his growth has been slow. We'll see if he does anything. I did end up, here. I actually managed to kill that summoner in the previous chapter, who had maxed magic and was able to one-hit kill anyone in my party, but sitting Anna on the throne next to him gave him a 0% hit rate, and I was able to finish off with a 100% hit on Kristen. So I actually managed to take that rescue staff from him. it's a B rank, so Betty won't be using it anytime soon. But if I do get him up there, or if I get another healer with a higher staff rank, I'll be able to use that to my advantage if I need it. Jay's gotten a few levels. I haven't used him. I didn't use him much last week because he died early. His stats, as you see that red, it hasn't really shifted much. It was pretty fast. He's reasonably fast, and being an archer is a boon against flyers, which I ran into a bunch of wyvern riders last chapter. Dragon knights. Though Tam took care of most of them because they came in kind of a swarm that Jay wouldn't have really been able to that helpful against. But I picked up a silver bow as a drop from an enemy. He obviously can't use it yet. I do need to remember to give him a vulnerary back because I was shifting around some inventory there. You might have seen that rune sword in my inventory. I managed to get that a drop off of last chapter. There were a lot of goodies, that some of which I got, some of which I didn't. I did miss out on a light brand, but I did grab the rune sword. We'll see. No one in my party is high enough level to... Oh, actually, Leroy can use the rune sword. It's a question of whether he should, given how flimsy he is, and especially if I'm saying I'm okay with leaving him and continuing on should he fall. I think I'll leave it off him for now. If I come upon a situation moving forward where I need to give him that rune sword, I can do so then. Not Arch is right next in the list. Not Arch did work last chapter as he did in the previous attempt at it. That massive 9 defense is still one of the highest on the team, and 26 is respectable HP, though I think it's slightly lower than it was last time around. It didn't grow quite as much. His other stats look a little on the low side to me for level 8. Anything that's lower than their level is, I generally consider, on the lower side, especially before level 10. Approaching level 10, you're kind of aiming to have as many stats as close to their levels, to my general gauge. Obviously, if everything was exactly even, then you'd have that generalist kind of spread that you see on characters like Elwood, which is generally unremarkable unless everything's high. But as a general tell for how well a character is doing or how poorly a character is doing, I find that's sufficient. As a tank, the unexpected tank, seal speed and that defensive stat have been wonderful. Seal speed makes it so that his partners can kind of pick off characters afterwards on the following turn. So he's a great enemy phase unit, which was something that I was lacking prior to his recruitment. I'll talk about Kristen because I didn't get her last time. She has a very interesting growth spread. You see, for a Peg Knight, Peg Knights are usually speedy units, high speed. They weren't originally, but they kind of adopted this reputation in the GBA games, I think, more so for being high res to counteract low defense. And Kristen's kind of breaking both of those conventions, not at least in terms of those growths, having only 20% growth in speed, 25 growth in defense, and 15 in resistance. So she actually kind of resembles another archetype breaking Pegasus Knight from the Last Promise hack. I am blanking on her name. She's the second one you get. the one that kind of resembles Tate, one of the sisters. I think they're all sisters. But she has this massive strength growth, which is another thing that's characteristically un-Pegasus Knight-like, and lower speed. Though I think she might have actually had that particular character in the Last Promise might have actually had decent defense or resistance. She was interesting. Archetypes are neat, but I also like it when a character kind of breaks away from an archetype. Her bases are pretty typical for Pegasus Knight spread, aside from the trading defense for resistance. 6 con is pretty standard. 20 HP at base is pretty low, but that's also kind of par for the course. Her growth is 80%, so she should pick up quite nicely and eventually. I'll use her for as long as she's my only flyer. I tend to as much as I just said I liked kind of the archetype breaking characters, I don't think I'm going to stick with her too much, mostly because low speed and low defensive stats, having mediocre speed, luck, defense, and resistance is kind of almost a death sentence for a lot of characters, because that takes away all of their survivability. Unless she's got, I actually know she doesn't have over 100% growth in. Oops. I know she doesn't have enough over 100% growth in HP, so that HP isn't going to take off quickly enough for her to outpace those defensive growths. And while her defensive base is reasonably solid, it'll only carry her so far. For now, she's useful because of her bases, but later on we'll see. She does come with Intimidate, which is interesting. I don't know to what extent that the hack team that created this hack is going to go back and repolish it, because I have heard that they're planning on kind of refining it, but I don't know how much. If they do go all out with it, I would be very interested in hearing what this character's story is that she has the Intimidate skill. Her description's written in a brogue accent, which you can kind of infer some, if she's confrontational from it, that might suggest the Intimidate skill, but it's just speculation on my part. Kanto's standard for all mounted units, and Darting Blow is nice. That should actually help offset her speed problem for a while on player phase, but it won't save her forever, depending on how she grows and how long I stick with her. But nice to have it. The blow skills are always kind of interesting. I almost kind of wish there were a little more equivalent for enemy phase skills, just to kind of play counterpoint and help specialize units for player and enemy phase. The state of Anti-Arch's Elfire Tome is testament to how much use he got last chapter. I did pull, or Bob pulled, I should say, a Thunder Tome from a chest last chapter, so thankfully he's got some extra ammunition and will continue to be useful. Thunder is arguably the better tome anyway, having much lower weight, not much less might, and only 5 less hit, with a bonus of a little bit of crit. So Hellfire, the last 2 hits will be relegated to higher accuracy nuking as necessary, and Thunders will be the standard pretty much for the rest of the game if I choose to continue using him. Let me store those extra items here on Bob. Bob's purely a utility unit, as thieves often are. There's a lot of red and orange in his stat spread, but 40% is for strength and skill. Is actually kind of decent. He actually looks like very similar to Eliwood's growth, with slightly less defense and maybe slightly more speed. In typical thief bases. He's got swap, which will be interesting. That's another skill from Fates originally. The Lance fighters have it, and is a little more impactful in Heroes, where overall movement ranges are smaller, so repositioning like that kind of has a bit more of an impact. I will have to test this because I didn't really get much of a chance in the previous chapter, but this cunning skill, kind of the wording implies that he doesn't actually need those lockpicks in his inventory. He can steal items, pick locks, and see in the darkness, which are all thief, characteristic thief abilities that were kind of implicit previously, so having a skill for them, I guess, is kind of par for the course, because they gave all the mounted characters Kanto and Despoil, which we'll see if that procs. It'd be nice. 14 luck's not bad. I think that's probably the highest luck of all my characters, so yeah, looks like it. So it'll be nice if it happens. Was it just after combat or if after he kills? After attacking and defeating. So it has to be on player phase, and he has to actually kill, which unfortunately I don't really see happening too often in the near future, considering his subpar stats, low starting level, considering most of my characters are level 8 already, and just him being a utility unit overall to begin with. But if I see an opportunity, I will try to take it. Anyway, that's overview of where my units are, progression-wise. Let's take a look at this Chapter 7's map. This is kind of pulled from Erica's Chapter 9, I think. The first chapter after the split. Kind of looks like parts of it are kind of similar. It's not exactly, but it's definitely the same tile set for the map making. Got a squad of soldiers backed by an archer and a myrmidon. It's a nice forest here that I'll probably try to use to bait on the opening turn, especially since the myrmidon can't reach, so I can use one of my axe users for that. Iron lances, all iron lances. You've got a steel sword, so you hit a little bit harder. Got an Elfire, but your stats are so low that you don't really hit too hard, especially since I keep saying that my res is on my team is on the low side, but it's not that low. I suppose it's probably on par for Sacred Stones. Hand axe fighter, and a thunder wielder. Droppable iron weapons that won't be too useful. And then a warrior. And you got desperation, right? 10 speed, I don't think he's going to be threatening too many of my units with that. It's mostly his biggest threat is this massive 28 attack. But let's see, with 89 hits, I think Anna, if Anna can get there, especially within the first 7 turns, I don't think he'll be able to hit her. 28, 5, 23, 22. At least with a rally, she'd be right on the cusp, right on the border of being one-shotted if it did hit her. So if she gets a level of HP before then, she'll definitely be good. Overall, depending on what else happens over the course, looks like a pretty straightforward map. The boss is Murray, who was a boss from Sacred Stones, which has been a common reoccurring thing. There have been several maps that just reuse the boss mug of a previous boss. He does look like he has life and death, which has never really been a player favorite skill. It's always, at least in Fates Heroes, it's fantastic because most of the time you aren't too concerned about everyone surviving unless you're doing stamina kind of run, Tempest Trials or Chain Challenges and so on. But in the GBA games, with the permadeath is a big deal. Life and death is definitely not to the player's advantage. He's got a huge 35 attack with that. Yeah, since that pretty much has to be figured in for him to get that high. He's on stairs, which means, oops, here we are. Which means elbow room. It says open terrain, and I kind of originally interpreted that as any terrain that doesn't have a terrain effect. So pillars, forests, mountains, forts, those would be terrain tiles that do have terrain effects. But when it says open terrain, I'm kind of hoping that this counts as not open terrain, being on stairs. But knowing my luck, it probably does. And let's see, I don't know if that's actually factored in yet. 924 is not factored in. I'm only off by 1. Wait. 9 and 13 should be 22, not 24. So yeah, okay, it is factored in already. I'm gonna probably, if I can't nuke him from afar, does he move? He does not move. So if I can't nuke him from afar in one turn, I'm gonna try to bait him to switch to his javelin so that he has 7 less might, which will put him 28, which Arch can handle. It'll also, almost more importantly, has 11 might, which slows him down by 2, making him, combined with Arch's seal speed, will that let him double? 9, 6, 3, yes, Arch should be able to double on the second turn. So that's the general game plan. Let's do it. I didn't do any repositioning at the start. Oh well, it's actually not too bad because I mostly have the setup that I want already here. They all have iron lances, so I don't need to. You have 1 crit. I can put you here. it's the first turn too, so if 1% crits me, then 16, yeah, 3 defense, so 13 would kill me. But if he 1% crits, it's not a big deal to start over, since I've barely started. I could, let's see, you don't have, so I can actually send my flyer down along the bottom here because of this wall. So all of these enemies can't get over that wall. So unless some surprises show up from down there, which I would say wouldn't surprise me, but they would, but they wouldn't be unexpected. They wouldn't be unexpected, I suppose. I could fly someone down. I could fly Anna down. I can give it a try. I'm not entirely sure what it'll gain me yet, but I don't anticipate needing the entire team to deal with everyone on the top, so this might create some other opportunities. Yeah, so this archer can only attack down here. The mage, similarly, only as far as here. I could even use not arch, to block off void if I didn't want her to take an attack. Level 8, but it's a soldier, so I don't really expect to get a lot of experience from this. And then just kind of stagger my forces along here. You need another vulnerary. I'm also holding on to that dummy, that mine item, just as a emergency ration, so to speak. If I get into another, if I hit another wall where it's like can't really beat it otherwise, I can drop that mine and use an enemy control glitch to get around it as necessary, but that's kind of a last resort rally, giving Void some non-zero luck, so she should actually tear through this soldier. She'll take some damage, but at least that eliminates the crit chance. And again, just kind of lining them up here because that's the enemy range. And just kind of sit right outside and bait with 1 or 2 units, so hopefully all 3 of these guys will all charge in. These 2 should die on the first, on initiation with Tim. Yeah, with 2 speed, 1 speed. They're gonna get doubled, being economical with the Iron Axe, but still 17. Yeah, they'll be dead. You'll be in range for the next attack, so I can take you out on player phase. Hopefully this archer moves in too, because he would also enter my range. And same thing with this soldier, or sorry, Myrmidon. And it would allow me to take out both of them on the next turn. If you moved forward, these 2 they'd enter Leroy's range, but I'd probably kind of skirt around to try to avoid them or bait them with someone else, because Leroy still has 0 defense. So that's it there. Yeah, Myrmidon moved. That's nice. Good. Aether. That was a entertaining proc animation. How nice of them to write it out for me. And saves me from having to heal too. Alright, yeah. Soldiers, or Cavaliers, Iron Blade, Short Spear. If not for your low HP, I'd say you could actually tank them. I'm just gonna test damage here. 12 and 13, definitely enough to not wipe her out. So I'll probably swing back across the wall here and then let the wall serve to slow down these cavaliers so I don't have to deal with them this turn. It's a nice, easy experience for Jay. How much am I off by with the iron? I'm off, so 2, perfect. Use that rally, gives me 14. There's another, see, one of those cases where that rally is just so incredibly powerful. 2 doesn't seem like much, but even if it was just 2 to attack, it would still be wonderful. In this case, it's 2 to everything. It was a exceedingly underwhelming level from Jay, but he does have nothing but speed and HP, so getting one of the 2 isn't too unexpected. The archer is only leveled 8, so I shouldn't really be too shy about using... Well, okay. There are a bunch of sword users coming up, and I have 2 axe users. So I want to use an axe user to kill this archer instead, so that my axe users aren't trying to tango with sword users and be at weapon triangle disadvantage. So I'll use not arch, to soften up the myrmidon, and even go a little bit further. Nah, no need to take risk taking counterattacks that I don't need to. And then I'll probably finish him off with Void. I wanted to see if I could stick Arch out a little bit further to make him bait for the following turn. But it's more important for me to reduce numbers. So you got 8 defense and 7 resistance, right? So you taking 8 damage from the mage and 9 damage from the soldier. You have 26, so that's bearable. I can definitely live through that. I can't kill with the hatchet, but I'm going to want to switch back to the hatchet so that I can counterattack the mage on the next turn, and also have hit rate. It's not a myrmidon, so the hit rate on the enemy fighter shouldn't be too big of a deal. He only has 14 avoid. How much? You got 6 crit and 16. 16 minus 5, 11 minus 10. So that's still, crit will still kill Void here, unfortunately. So if I attack from here, so do I want to actually use Void here? One thing I could do, I could use Void's shove skill to put her in range of, put not Arch in range of this mercenary next turn, or on enemy phase, so that he attacks my debuffing tank, which will give me a more favorable next turn. But unfortunately that leaves me with just Tam to kill this Myrmidon this turn. Well, alright, I can switch to the hatchet for Tim and then throw this hand axe and see if it hits. If it doesn't, then yeah, it didn't. 60 might have. It's above 50%, so true hit would say it's actually slightly higher than 60, but that was still kind of it was a chance. Just literally throwing it out there. Alright, seal speed. I was wondering why he was doubling. So can I could do this. I'd really like to get Anna off of Kristen's back. And we can do this. Because I don't mind giving Kristen a little bit more experience next turn should the mercenary choose to attack her instead of not Arch, which, based on their defensive stats, probably is what's going to happen. Oh well. But we get Anna, free Anna up a bit there, and unburden Kristen. Yep. Because Kristen has lower HP and defense, so the mercenary can do more proportional damage to her health than he would against not Arch. That is interesting. So I should remember that the cabs move before the other units, because that actually shielded Tim from the mage. The mage can't reach. Good old Bond's getting some passive healing in. Alright, so I've got an iron sword. An iron lance, which I can deal with Tim. 9 speed isn't, so he's fast enough that Tim's not going to be able to double, but I could throw my killer axe against him and see if I crit. Which is what I'm gonna do, but that'll have to be a little later in the player phase because I need to clear out these two first to make sure. Okay, alright? So the short spear. I do want to make sure I kill you so that I can get that, but otherwise, just gonna leave you be for now. My instinct here is to send Kristen against the mage, and I have to remind myself that she doesn't actually have the Peg Knight's resistance, so that's not any more of an advantageous move than sending say Tam or Tim, which actually I think both of them have higher resistance. Yeah, ironically, Kristen actually has one of the lowest resistance values on my team at the moment. Use that killer lance, get the one-hit kill, even if that didn't crit. That's avoid taking a counter attack. Alright, that's about par for the course. Be nice if that massive strength growth started taking off already, because it's probably going to be the only thing keeping her relevant as she goes. So Void's not fast enough, not quite strong enough. But here comes the rally. And suddenly she is both fast enough and strong enough. Once again, with that 0 luck on Void, I want to prioritize taking as few counterattacks and attacks as possible, so one hitting is the best answer there, even if it does continue to wear on the Blitz Lance. That's what the Blitz Lance is there for, so no need to be overly conservative with it. Even with the buff, this mage still has 1% crit on me here, which, if my Fire Emblem experience means anything to me, I want to minimize those kinds of encounters as much as possible. 1% is 1%. It's not likely to happen, but it's higher than 0. So I can't quite ignore it especially if I have a choice about it. alright. Do you have... yeah, okay. Alright. That's fair. Wanted to be a little more ambitious and kind of get not arch in, I'm gonna do that constantly. In range for that other mage to bait him out for next on the enemy phase. But better to kind of play it safe and a little bit slower, since I'm not really speed running this or trying to rank or anything. Not on the first playthrough, certainly. And that was a pretty good level. Speed and defense, both valuable, especially if he's going to continue his tanking role. Let's see. Tam, I can put in range. You have an L-Fire, right? 13 attack, 7 res, so 6 damage. Unlikely to happen more than once, yeah. Tam's even gonna kill here. So I'm gonna open here with this. 13. Right. I did forget that you only need a difference of 4 in order to double attack in GBA games, whereas in, I think, Awakening, but definitely Fates and Heroes, you need 5 difference, a difference of speed of 5 to double. So I can actually double here and see if we get a crit. Not too big of a deal even if we don't. Yeah. So I can still finish off with Tam. Good. Strength and defense are both great. 27 HP is nice as well. 27's right around the point where I start considering unpromoted unit to have high-ish HP, especially this early in the game still. Okay. Keep marching forward here. I'm actually going to ferry Anna a little bit closer here. Mostly because her job this chapter is going to be just to take on that warrior at the bottom so that I can visit those 2 villages safely. And also because I suspect there might be pirates showing up soon to threaten those villages, because nothing has threatened them so far. Yep, right on cue. What turn is it? 4? Okay, so Anna's still getting her lucky 7s. There's no one else up here. You both have hammer and iron axe, huh? What skill is that? It's camaraderie and seal skill. Interesting. Considering they have pretty negligible avoid, seal skill isn't really all that threatening. 3 crit. Let me use another rally here since you can't reach Tim to heal him. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, this is his max range. So I'm going to bait with Kristen here. Though I'll keep Void close. I can shove Leroy a little bit further if I move Tam out of the way. So, let's see. You're going to max range go to here. Which means there probably is not a point where I can bait both of them Oh, right. So actually, I'm not going to bait with Kristen because this Cavalier has a ranged weapon. Anyone who baits one has to deal with both of them. So I'm actually just going to sit out right outside their range and then take them on player phase next turn. Yeah, okay. So diagonal from J is the safe spot. Alright, so I can get that shove. Alright, yeah, not even close. You can kind of support Anna here. She should be able to move into the warrior's range next turn. Actually, Arch could bait these guys because he's nice and tanky. Oh, and I have a forced tile even to do it. So I'll do that. Let's get her a little bit closer so she can benefit from bonds. I don't want to spend vulneraries if I don't have to. Alright. Sorry about that. Nice. Arch was even fast enough to double a short spear guy. Sitting with 1 health, he's basically have my pick of who to finish him off with. Jay needs some more experience. I'm actually gonna bring Kristen over to help out since she has an Axe Reaver here. I'd rather give her the experience than Leroy. And it's probably safer for her to take them on too, just because she actually has defense. The Iron Axe should be more accurate but do less damage. And turn 5 still, so lucky 7's in full swing still. Yeah, we'll sit with a killing edge. Keep Leroy close in case you need to run for it, but I do think if he hits, she's dead. But I don't think he has any chance of hitting. I'm pretty sure he's gonna have 0. So, yeah, no skill that boosts his accuracy. Everyone else can just kind of crawl towards the boss here. I do still have to have Betty actually do some healing for a change. Hey. We're up to a C now, right? Yeah. That opens access to restore staves, and I think that's about it. All the long range staves are B rank. And unlock, torch, I think are both. Yeah. Oh, 10%, huh? Alright, well, duelist blow next turn will definitely bring that down to 0. Ooh, great knights. Wow. Silver axe and a killing edge. And oh, a droppable ballista. That is interesting. What do I want to do about that? It'd be nice to get, but not going to be. It's got 24 might, 24, so 29 attack against the only character that's able to reach it. 29, 21. So I could survive a hit with a rally, but would need to rally to get in there. I could range is what, 10? 10, 11. Yeah, since I don't have a refresher, I don't have any dancer or dancer or bard, I can't get her in without her taking a hit. I only have shove as far as my movement shenanigans go. I'm gonna have to use arch here if I want to get Kristen into position to take on that ballista in a reasonable amount of time. Unfortunately, seal skill. I said it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I've still kind of remember thinking of seal skills like how they are in Heroes, where they go away after only one turn. And unfortunately, the hack makers decided to make them like Fates, where they linger and diminish over time, which I still think is a little overly punishing for any combat. Maybe if they went away twice as fast instead of just by one. Alright. Bonds should cap you off next turn. You gotta keep Betty close. I might as well give Betty a little more experience. This looks like a threshold point, and I don't know how often they're used in hacks, but I'm not sure if something will appear when I cross this. Am I ready for it? If I were being super safe, I'd say no, but I think I can see what happens. Because I do want this village. Anyway, we can finish off the warrior that, as I mentioned, duelist blow brings his hit down to 0. So, free experience for Hannah. Nice. Strength. Much needed strength. Luck's always good too. And let's take the far one first. This text is a placeholder. Alright. Wasn't very exciting, but I suppose I should have expected that. Since I don't need, well, yeah, I don't need bonds for them anymore. I'm gonna bring Void a little closer to Tam, who still needs some healing. Oh good, you moved a little closer. That'll make it... Actually, that doesn't really change anything. I still need a whole turn to get in. Fortunately, you are super slow. Well, 6, since you got maxed constitution, and 20 weight actually doesn't weigh him down, weigh the boat down, which I guess it is a whole boat, so it is what it is. 7 defense, should actually make sure that I can kill you. 9, 6, 3, 10. 10 attack speed to 6 attack speed is fast enough to double with the Killer Lance. Hit, unfortunately, might be a little shaky. We got 24 avoid, and she has 94 hits. Actually, that's in range. 3. How much damage? 13, so okay. Not particularly threatening to anyone other than Kristen, but I think Kristen should even Kristen should be able to survive with one hit. Survive one hit if I ran my numbers correctly. Excuse me. Alright, so I put you here. I'll leave you with the Iron Lance for now and maximize your avoid. I'll be able to rally for you again next turn, at which point I will be in range to finish him off. I wish I had brought Jay down a little bit further so I could have harassed these Great Knights a little bit more, but it's a little too late now. They'll get around and be in range to threaten him before they're before I am in range to safely attack them with Jay. Okay, that's solid. I was running a bit low on funds. So Arch is going to take care of the Great Knights if necessary. I might be able to outrun them. So 5 defense, 24, so yeah. Even less threatened by the ballista than Betty. Might be to my advantage just to make the boss switch right from the start. So what's it, 20, what did I calculate out? 7 less, right? So yeah, 28 attack. With weapon triangle advantage, he has 10 defense, so 18. They have the same speed. He's actually, and Murray will actually be slowed down a little. So I should be safe to sit here with this hatchet. Actually, I'm hoping that I don't kill him next turn. Oh. Well. That was a little premature. I didn't get that village. Crap. Alright, well, that's another map to replay later. I may just roll with... Oh, hey. Depending on what's in that village, I may just roll with what I've got here, because that was otherwise a fairly successful chapter. Maybe, maybe not. I do kind of want that ballista as well. It would make Jay significantly more relevant. but some actual dialogue. I think I'm gonna roll through the intro to this chapter and just kind of look over the map real quick and then kind of call it a night. So let's try it one more time. Blast, why can't I use this Knight's Crest? I'm clearly qualified. Whatever, maybe it'll work someday. Is that soldiers I hear? Ugh, oh no. So she's carrying a Knight's Crest and she can't use it because she's a magic class. Prine? I have a feeling that's supposed to be Prine. She's not, doesn't say a talk condition. Maybe it'll show up when I actually start. This is steel sword and javelin. Frenzy. That's interesting. She doesn't quite seem like the type, but Voice of Peace. That's nice. It's a Azura skill. And Demoiselle. She actually has really nice stats. Like, good balance. Great strength. Surprisingly good strength. A B in staves, so she can take over Betty's role as a healer, though Betty is as a buff bot is still going to be indispensable. She actually has pretty nice defense. Respectable speed, it's a little on the low side for what I expect from the class, but it's alright. It's workable. It's not slow. That's the important part. She's not really at risk of being doubled by too much. Enemy cleric. So we've got an armory with pretty unexciting stuff. I might pick up some extra vulneraries. Defeat, so it's a route chapter. We've got Tirado with a physique. That'll be welcome. Seems I was gonna say it seems a little early, but maybe not that early. It is chapter 8. What's this skill? It's a seal defense. Yeesh. He already hits fairly hard. 27 attack. Got a massive 50 HP to burn through. Considering anti-arch doesn't have huge offensive stats, so his targeting of Tirado's resistance isn't going to be as big of a bonus. We'll see. I'd like to use Anna, but I might be forced to stick with her Lance Reaver for that, since even though the Armor Slayer does the bonus damage, she's got just so much attack that he can probably one-shot her. Say 28, 29, yeah. Looking at about 24 damage to her 23 HP. I've reduced to only 7 units this chapter as well. That's gonna be fun. I may not bring Anna at all, just because there's a lot of lances. Slightly more lances than axes, and we'll see. Enemy stats are starting to get a little more formidable, at least on the non-soldiers, a little bit. Mercenary, not level 10 yet. What do you have? Miracle and Live to Serve. That's nice. And you have a physique. 7 Oh wait, this isn't a Tellius game, so unfortunately I won't be able to steal that like I want to. Javelins, fire. Fortunately, no special weaponry, so the enemy weapons are fairly unthreatening. Oops. Okay, I can't bring up the enemy range. The master enemy range here from the preparations menu. So you're not immediately threatened, and oops. Taking 8 damage from you. Depending on who talks to you, no matter who talks to Prin, I'm probably going to want to field Kristen so that I can fly over this wall and get to her faster. Otherwise, it's a bit of a hike. And this definitely looks like a bottleneck. If these guys come at me right around when I get to here, then that's going to take a few turns to burn through them all. Map design wise, it's alright. Has some interesting features to it. The bottleneck, as I pointed out, there is the option to go around here, but the forests will definitely slow me down. Flyers, Kristen's gonna be, even if Kristen doesn't see any combat, which I'm planning on having her take out this soldier at the very least anyway. Kristen would be MVP on this map just for getting over this wall. Assuming she can. It's actually, let's see, fence. I can check that. She can, yeah. So getting to this village, getting to Prin. Even with her Axe Reaver, she can probably take care of this fighter as well, and that's all the threats. So unless there's a swarm of reinforcements, which these random staircases on the grass probably will spawn reinforcements. This looks like a fairly straightforward map, much like the last one. But based on the enemy spread, I can probably start benching Leroy. I do want to bring my actual tank. Then I have to decide whether or not I actually want to keep Anna on, or if I want to bench one of my axe users. I'd say Tam is still the better of the two. I think I'll bench Tam just to give Tim a little more growth, since this seems like a fairly easy map. He can get that experience and see if by the time he's the same level, if he's caught up or if he's still kind of trailing behind. I'm gonna miss. That luck is still a little unfortunate. It says it's kind of an orange text, but it still says it's 40. So alright, was there anything to steal? I didn't see anything that I remember. There aren't any chests. So I'm okay with leaving Bob behind. Okay, this looks like it'll be my lineup. Alright. Okay. So definitely leave Kristen there. I can put Anna a little bit further in the back, since there's all these lances to deal with first. Five. Okay. Yet another chapter. I missed that the first time. Didn't see that originally. I think, yeah, you've got some extra stuff. I'm actually going to put the hand axe in the supply just in case I need to give it to Tim this chapter. Actually, the same thing with those vulneraries. About half a level away from using a silver bow. That would help. It'll greatly help his relevance. Help him keep his relevance. If I get there. Give her a ranged weapon. That'll help a lot. Keeping her out of danger. Okay. I have time. I think I can at least start this chapter. Hey, pre-battle dialogue. Hey, you guys don't look like your soldiers trying to kill me. Think you could help out a bit here? Though I'd like to think that I could hold my own. Of course, these soldiers are in my way anyway. Disposing of them is only natural. Everyone get ready. So, you joined automatically. Okay. Alright. I still kind of need to get over there and rescue her, because if they advance on Prin, then she's going to be in trouble no matter how unusually bulky she is for a troubadour. So, getting on that. That was a good dodge. 8 damage isn't a lot, but she only has 21 HP, so it still is more than a third of her health. I wanted to prioritize the fighter here, because that would allow me to move Void in. But he's actually quick enough that I can't double him. So it's probably more valuable to me to reduce numbers here. So long, Elfire. You served me well. Hopefully I don't regret burning that here. Ooh. Is that Adept? Looks like Adept. Yep. Cool. 9% isn't super likely to activate it too often, but anything's good. It was a speed, right? Speed percent. So I might actually want to let Not Arch, got it right this time, Not Arch tank both of these, all 3 of these. That'll be the mage, if the mage moves, which it looks like he will. The fighter and the soldier. I can put Tam on the forests, actually. And the mercenary. Okay. I kind of wish I had rallied first. Hindsight. You can take the, well, you got a javelin. Rallying now. Okay. If I give you the Lance Reaper, you're not going to be in danger from these guys. Not, yeah. You weren't in a lot of danger from either of them to begin with, but can't hurt to be a little bit safe. And I may actually leave Jay right there. Just kidding. Jay gets to help block Betty. See, if you don't have a ranged weapon, you're not even in range anyway, so I can actually visit this village. Oh man, did you mess up my garden on your way in here? I spent so much time making it look nice too. Well, I guess I won't need this anymore. I was going to use it as an ornament. Hero's Crest. Which, unfortunately, Prince still can't use. But my fighters will welcome it. One of my fighters will. I got a Hero's Crest earlier, and so I'll probably give one to Anna and one to one of the fighters, just for diversity's sake. And the other question is, since this is based on Sacred Stones, we've got branching promotions. So I gotta decide whether or not to make Tim and or Tam to a hero or a warrior, and Anna into an assassin or swordmaster. I remember there being a lot of debate on which was the better option in any given case, and sometimes it was pretty cut and dry. Like, the Ranger is subjectively superior to the Sniper. As much as I love snipers, the Ranger has access to the swords to have a melee enemy phase. They have extra movement. There's really, if you're playing for optimization, there's never any reason to go Sniper over a Ranger. With the Myrmidon, it becomes a little muddied. The argument used to be that the Swordmaster was better because it had higher stat caps, first of all. Did it? It had higher strength and defense caps. The Assassin has slightly higher skill cap. But from a practicality standpoint, unless you're doing like the creature campaign in Sacred Stones, where you have unlimited grinding and you have access to viable stat boosts where you can actually cap out stats, it's not like Fates and Awakening where the stat cap really matters a lot. It only really matters for units with a really high growth in that particular stat. Those are the units that are actually have a chance of capping that stat. So yeah, I probably just want to get out of here. I didn't check whether or not you had a ranged axe. Okay, it wouldn't have mattered where I had gone if you had. So I have 5 enemies to kill and 4 attackers to do it with. So someone gets to survive. Who is the smallest threat? Maybe that javelin wielder, I think. Since it's a javelin. Hoping this fighter doesn't go for the village. I mean, usually they make it bandits that go for the brigand class that goes for villages. Brigands are thieves, brigands, however you pronounce it. But we'll see. Basically, if he goes here instead of down one of these two, then I may want to start worrying about him. To which end, see about sending Anna up to potentially deal with him. Maybe. So Jay actually can't reach anyone other than this javelin thrower. So I might as well toss the killer bow, hope it crits. Yeah, and that takes care of one guy. Alright, one down. This was actually not a very favorable matchup. What happened here? I think the enemy just has higher HP, that's why it looks like he took more damage. I am actually... that's not real favorable. I probably want to use Anna here, get a more secure kill. Rather than chancing the killer axe with only 70% hit. If it had missed, then I'd have taken unnecessary damage and would have been down in action with no return for it. So can you take? You can. Did I miscount my own unit? I might have miscounted my own units because I do have 3 people to kill and 3 people to kill them with. Yep. Seal speed doing work. I still have mixed feelings about her having Erica's sword animations, even though she's wielding lances now. Yeah, that's 100% that I like to see. So I have 98 on the mage. What else is up here? What's the range on this? Alright. I can do this. Switch him to his hatchet with Arch, and then finish off the soldier. And I will have cleared all the immediate threats. And still have my healer around. I guess I can't get close enough to even throw them a rally. Sure. Physique. Right. Okay, so yeah, I don't have to worry about the village being threatened by you. Though I do still have to deal with you. Void is not a sword wielder, so... Okay. I feel like I'm not really using Anna as much as I want to, so I'll give her some experience here. Would a rally put me in doubling range? It looks like it should, actually. I think I'm only down by 3. though it still don't have the power to kill. Meanwhile, Tim has all the power to kill. Alright, we'll go with the killer bow. Hope for another crit. Yeah. Again, Jay's the kind of character that I want to use more of, and situationally is sometimes kind of tricky because, well, archers. And he got strength and defense. I'll take it because I don't really expect him to get much strength and defense going forward. Both those are on the lower, fairly low. And I can bring Prin up with Kristen. And I even get the forest. Awesome. So it'll just be the one fighter next turn. But keep other forces nearby within bond range to keep them healing each turn. There's that reinforcement starting. A mage, huh? Anything from nothing from the other side yet. You have thunder. Let's see, 7 skills should only be 3 and 5, 8. So okay, this crit value is including focus. Yeah. So 6, 12 luck. Alright, you get to bait the mage, as per usual. How would you point at someone with a tome? I mean, I guess you can stand with it open and look threatening, but I feel a little bad now. Just a little bit. Maybe we're the villains the whole time. Except there hasn't been enough story to say one way or another anyway. Top you off. Since I don't think I'll need a rally. A rally probably should have rallied. Should pretty much always rally. Would have helped bring his luck up just a little bit more. Oh, Anna is level 10. Give Kristen a little more experience. By actually killing the cleric. Save uses on the Axe Reaver and let her bait the mercenary next turn, maybe. Yeah, he'll be in range. Can use Anna to kill the fighter. Okay. So you have a lot of items and only one of which you can actually use. So let me... Alright, I'll just do this then. Use the supply here, dump those. It'd be really cool if with a guiding ring she promoted to like Tellius or a Jugdral style Valkyrie and gain the use of swords. Or maybe go as crazy as Lachesis and promote into a Master Knight and gain like weapon ranks and everything. But for the time being, we'll just stick to this. since I don't have a guiding ring yet, maybe I should actually pick up some of that pure water. It would help with, since I don't really, I keep thinking that I don't have very high resistance, but my resistance is actually decent. But more resistance is never bad. Okay. What is it? Okay, so the mercenary can only attack down to here. So I can bait this soldier as well. Mage and the other soldier are both still out of range. So that seems like a good idea. Let's not over-abuse that hatchet as good as it is. It'll be a tough call making one of them a warrior versus a hero. So the hero, it's generally a toss-up for both of them. Any fighter that can branch there. In the Sacred Stones, it was Ross potentially, and then Garcia. And as far as classes go, the hero does a good job of patching up fighters' inherent weaknesses. Heroes generally have higher defense and better speed gain, but they don't have quite as much strength, and they won't have quite as much HP. So it becomes a question of, do you want to cover the weaknesses of your fighter, or do you want to play to your fighter's strengths? Where the warrior is going to enhance the already high strength, already high HP. And just make them better at what they already do. Which, in some cases, is the better option. It's a similar case with Ardor and Sacred Stones. Slayer really tips the scale towards favoring bishops because there are a lot of monster enemies. The Slayer skill gives them effective damage, but even without that, the Sage promotion option kind of balances out his somewhat lopsided stats, whereas the bishop plays a bit more to his strengths by optimizing his massive resistance growth. If you're playing towards optimization in Sacred Stones, it's generally recommended to go bishop for Slayer, and also to allow I think he's got over 60% growth in resistance. So that's actually one of those cases where there's a character who actually has a decent chance of capping or coming close to capping one of his stats. And those are the kinds of moments where it's worth considering a class that can allow them to do that. Let me see here. Literally everyone has crit rate, or everyone suffers crit rate against this guy. I see that I failed to retaliate, hit on retaliation. So now I'm left with enemy full of focus, lots of crit. Kind of a scary situation, unfortunately. We're probably going to rally here and then attack with Anti-Arch. Anti-Arch could actually survive a crit should it happen. There we go. Thanks to his seal speed, and Anti-Arch can now double him. Good. Let's see if Jay has the accuracy to finish him off. Definitely. I'll take it. Alright. Right. I could have actually stole this elixir, It was like, forgot to check the boss for a stealable item. Oh well. Too late now. Not worth going back for. I still have 2 elixirs that I don't think I've used any part of either of them. Take advantage of that Demoiselle. Was it physical damage or all damage? Yeah, it's all damage. Good. In the off case that that fighter down there has a hand axe. Oof. 10 crit again, but low enough damage that it wouldn't have made a difference. Nope. And the reinforcements come out of the incongruous staircases, as expected. Surprised there hasn't been more out of this one. I may want to park someone nearby to deal with them as necessary. Energy ring, huh? Void might be a good candidate for that. So would Anna. They both have 40%. It says 40%, but it really doesn't feel like 40%. I guess Void does kind of feel like it's been 40%. She's up to 12 already. Yeah, with this Void is basically Leroy with marginally better defensive stats and much less movement until she promotes. Let's see. You just have an Iron Axe with a stealable vulnerary that I'm also not going to miss. More work for Tim. It's an easy choice. Don't have to go down here for anything because I already got that village. And then just keep Void close for bonds. Actually, I didn't need to keep Void that close. I could have gotten Demoiselle again. Oh well. We've kind of feels like we're passing out of the difficult part of the game. A lot of Fire Emblem games tend to have a trickier beginning and an easier end. And part of that's because of the unit balancing that I mentioned last time, where the game isn't quite balanced with the mindset that every player is going to reset and keep all of their units. It's balanced for the casual player that might not even think to reset if they lose someone. And so the player's army may be this flux of units that have survived, but also filled with substitute units that have kind of been filling in for units that have died to either RNG or a tactical mistake, and the player just moved on without them. And so the substitute units most often aren't up to the par of where a character, a unit that you started with and built up from a low level would be. So the enemies are scaled a little bit weaker so that the substitute unit can still handle them, so that the player doesn't get walled off by accidental deaths or poor decision making. It is a strategy game, so you do need a certain degree of good decision making, but it doesn't have to be so punishing that losing 1 or 2 units will prevent you from clearing the game, and that's kind of what they're kind of supposed to be going on about, balance-wise. But again, as I mentioned last time, with this being a hack that was made entirely in a week, I'm not sure if the game was balanced with that in mind. I should have rallied. I'm gonna say that again eventually, and it'll still be true. Rally is so good. Alright. So, Blitz Lance can bring you down to 7. If I can deal 7 damage with the hatchet, I can bring you into 1-shot range. And put you on a forest because I like forests. Forest of habit. Forest of habit. Oof, defense. For some reason I thought her skill and speed are supposed to be the same, but skill is steadily pulling ahead. Alright. Let's bring Kristen a little bit closer to potentially deal with any more reinforcements that might come up those stairs. And should be good to start wrapping this chapter up. Or there can just be no reinforcements. That's okay too. I'm just gonna park someone there. Alright. I don't want to linger on you too long. Let's do some damage checks. I like the damage. I don't like the return damage, and especially not that crit, as per usual. So at least it's not a regular spear, which would have a built-in 5% crit, and just kind of make things worse. I gotta remember, since he has seal defense, that's the main reason I don't want to spend more than 1 turn on this, because any repeat combat he's gonna hurt so much more. It's only 4, but this is actually a pretty favorable matchup, especially if once I get a rally in there, it'll eliminate his crit chance, and I'll do even more damage. That should bring him down into a range where I can clean up. But if I want to play it a little bit safer, I'm actually gonna set it up for next turn where I can have Not Arch contributes in case if necessary. So rally here. Gonna even put 1, 2. Yeah, since I'm going all in here, I'm not even gonna bother with Demoiselle. I'm gonna heal if necessary. Go down here just so make sure Void has clean access to him. I don't think I have any spurs or other passive buffs. And if Tim crits here, then it's over anyway. All right, it didn't, but did bring him down to 24, which is that enough? Just barely not enough to one-shot with Void. So I'm going to soften him up again a little bit more with Anti-Arch, because Anti-Arch can get in and deal damage without fearing crit rate as well. Oh, Adept! I wonder if all of the skill procs have those effects. It's kind of neat that they included one for with the appropriate name too. Like I thought, I was actually expecting Aether to be the only one because because it's Aether. It's kind of the ultimate Fire Emblem skill, or at least the poster boy for ultimate Fire Emblem skills. Okay, so I think I'm gonna call it at that. Call it a night. That was 2 chapters, just about what I did last time. Um, don't want to get too far ahead because I do still want to go back and at least recheck what I missed in Port of Bad. Um, and then we'll pick up with chapter 9 next week, unless something happens with my work schedule, and uh, which next starting next week and then going for another 2 weeks or so, my schedule might be rather volatile. So we'll see. Um, I'm not sure if I can put out an announcement through Twitch that yes, I'm going to be streaming or not, but I'll play around and see if I can find any features like that. Um, let people know that whether I will or won't. So, all right. A good night. Things have definitely been getting easier. And I'm not sure if it's just my characters getting stronger or if the enemies have been kind of dropping off with that scaling that I was mentioning before. Um, so I'm glad they haven't taken off ridiculously because of hard mode, at least. So there's that. Definitely is feeling a lot more manageable anyway. So looking forward to seeing more. It's been interesting. Um, Even with the lack of any real character development, getting characters that I have and seeing them grow, at least just stat wise, and playing with the different situations that the custom maps uh, create, has been fun. It always is. It's one of the beautiful things about Fire Emblem hacking and the GBA hacking community is that they can create stuff like this, which is basically completely new games using the same system, doing the same things that we love from the GBA games, um, completely freely, uh, however, whatever design they want to do. Um, and hacks have just been getting better over the years. This is new technology, new hacking techniques have been developed and stuff. So exciting to see where it goes from here, and it's fun and interesting that the GBA scene for hacking specifically is still so alive. It actually is almost a little like the cult following that kept Melee, Super Smash Bros. Melee alive for uh, several years before it then kind of resurged. Um, and the scale of the communities between this and Fire Emblem hacking obviously are way different, but the phenomenon I kind of think is a little similar. Fire Emblem hacking community isn't maybe it probably isn't resurging quite as much, but um, it's been making steady developments even after all this time. So it's always exciting to see them come out with new things, and I look forward to hearing about new hacks and so on. So I've rambled on for long enough. Uh, have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining, and hopefully tune in next week. All right.